on the rebuild, gents, there's links today to Thomas Frank, that he's a strong contender to be the next Man United manager if Erik ten Hag is to leave. LB, what's your thoughts on Thomas Frank and this rebuild and this rebuild?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be one that you can't really get too excited for if you are a United fan. I mean, looking at his record here, he averages 1.52 points per game for Brentford, which isn't mega. Before that, same sort of at Brondby, and this is his second, major job. So, I guess when you're looking at him, you're probably not looking at quality. I guess you're probably looking at what's he like with the players, what's he like clearing the dressing room. Can he get the dressing room pulling in the right direction? Can he unite the players? Can he unite the fan base? Can he get United moving forward in a more positive light? Is he going to win you the Premier League? Probably not. I don't know. I think that, when it comes to United and the managerial situation, I think you're in a very, very, very tricky situation, man, because Ten Hag is clearly not the man for the job. I mean, it's just clear. I mean, just look at where you are at the table, right? That's it. It's the worst. I believe it's the worst finish in league position for Manchester United in Premier League era, right?
It's the worst. 8th is the lowest would have been, and currently it's our lowest points total as well. Okay. Yes.
So there's no gaslighting anybody can do to me about injuries, about anything else. This guy is about to set a record for Manchester United Football Club as the worst league finish in the Premier League era. So there's nothing that anyone can tell me, no gaslighting anyone can do to me to tell me this is the right man. The question is then, where'd you go from it? Because let's be honest, yeah, no legit big manager at the moment, in my opinion, is going to Man United. Zidane ain't going to go there. Very surprised if Simeone goes there. Would Thomas Tuchel go there? Maybe, but is he an elite level manager? Probably not as much as I'd like him. I don't know if he's elite. Jose Mourinho would probably go there, but there's question marks about whether or not he's still got it in him. So I just think United are in a very, very tricky situation. It wouldn't surprise me if you end up keeping Ten Hag, because all the interviews I've seen from Gary Neville, recently about we need to keep him. I don't know how close he is to Ineos. I thought he was pretty close, because I thought he was on the board of the sort of redevelopment program around Old Trafford, because obviously he's got the hotel right next to the stadium. So maybe he's heard that they're going to keep him, and now the PR's coming out. I'm not sure. But listen, when it comes to coming back to your question, Thomas Frank, I just think it's just sort of like a meh. Like I say, he's probably not going to get you back in the top 4 next season. He won't win you a title, but could he make it less toxic? Maybe. But let me ask you a question, yeah, and for the chat as well. If you bring in Thomas Frank and he gets off to a bad start, United fans are not going to be like, oh, give him time. They're going to be like, hang on a minute, why have we appointed a Brentford manager who averaged 1.52 points per game, yeah, and it's his second job ever? Yeah, I mean, Brentford's his second job ever. Why have we got this guy? So I just think immediately he's going to be under massive pressure. But so would everyone. If you got Southgate, he'd be under pressure straight away. If you got De Zerbi, he'd be under pressure straight away. I just think that, I'm just looking at it, bro, and I'm just like, I've got such a smile on my face, because I don't see how this gets fixed quickly at all. And I don't know if some United fans might. There's a lot of United fans that don't have the patience anymore, because they've been patient, some of them, to be fair, for over a decade. And they've been waiting. They've been leaving the promises of the board. They've been leaving the promises of the owners and the new signings, and it's never worked out sustainably. And season after season. And I just don't know if you get a manager like that and it doesn't start off well. I just think you'll be in the same situation yet again.
Do you know what? I think I understand where you're coming from, and I understand fans have lost patience, but we have not seen change like this at the club since we fell off. We have had no football decision makers at the club. We have been rudderless. We've been led by bankers and accountants, and that has changed. I implore Man United fans to become more patient again and look at this whole thing as a fresh slate. If we almost have to, and it's some of this is psychological. You almost have to, when the final whistle blows after the FA Cup, hopefully victory, right? After the FA Cup final, there's almost an element where you have to completely wipe the slate clean. We've barely started anything new as of yet. Ineos are in. They're getting their ducks in a row with the decision makers, and then they're going to start to impact the squad, the team, the club, the training facilities. That's all going to start in the summer. So I'm at a point where I said this last week on the squad. Big up everyone who subscribed, by the way. Brand new channel, 27,000 subscribers already, which is mind-blowing. So thank you all. I'm not even going to get angry if we appoint Gareth Southgate. I'm not going to get angry.
So someone clip this.
Yeah, clip it. KJ's backstage.
Somewhat, KJ, clip this.
Your face sent me an LB. What I mean by that is I'm not advocating for him. I'm not saying go get Southgate. I'm looking at it as I trust Barada, I trust Ashworth, I trust Jason Wilcock. I trust their football and business acumen combined to for a period of time to trust their decision, to put my own bias, my own whatever I would call football knowledge, my own opinions to the side and say, right, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to keep an open mind, essentially do, LB, what you've just said United fans won't have. That mentality from me will create patience in me. And I think that's what we've got to look. I know what we do, fan content. I love it, right? And we're all, to a degree, we've all got a sense of arrogance about us because we feel the need to come on camera and give our opinions and fight for it. And that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. But I believe what Man United fans need to do from this summer for a period of time is you can question things, of course. You can say, I don't agree with it. But you can then also put your bias aside when it comes to giving things time. We need a fundamental rebuild from the ground up. You've said in one breath that most big managers will say no to Man United. And I tend to, now sitting here, 14th of May, 2024, I tend to agree with that. Hope I'm wrong, but I tend to agree with it. So if we can't get the best managers, then the next pile you're shopping in is people like your Thomas Franks and your Graham Potters of this world. So if they're not good enough for us, but the big guys don't come, what's the other option? We fold as a club? We have to do one of these things. And we are in this position because of 10 years of mismanagement, because bankers and accountants have led us. I am just going to remain patient and as calm as possible. And by the way, I much prefer Thomas Frank to Gareth Southgate. I actually quite rate Thomas Frank. I think he's a very, very capable manager. I know Man United is a completely different kettle of fish. But, I mean, I'm not doing cartwheels for him. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, my God, what I think he could do for Man United, which is key, is I think he could implement a very strong structure in terms of how we play. And that, for me, is what's been fundamentally missing for years at Manchester United. He has done that at Brentford. And for a team their size, with their budgets and how they operate, to be averaging, 57 points a season, as per your, how many points is it per game?
1.5, but that does include the Championship, by the way. If you do the Premier League, it's a lot worse.
Yeah,
can I ask you a question, though, bro?
Go on.
Would you not rather have Thomas Tuchel?
Listen,
what would be the pros of having Thomas Frank over Thomas Tuchel?
The tale of the two Thomases. Do you know what it is for me? Tuchel has the CV. He's won major trophies. I think structurally, because he's done it at a higher level, you look at his team structure, the way they can play, that all goes to him. My one concern about Thomas Tuchel, and this is more anecdotal, when you read reports of his problems at PSG, his problems this season, his problems at Chelsea, it's falling out with the board, falling out with individuals. And what we kind of need for a period of time is not a yes man that's going to say yes. Well, to a degree, we do need a bit of a yes man who's going to take the direction from the Dan Ashworths and the Baradas of this world that know what they're doing and implement a club system. Tuchel, for me, I don't know if he fits that. So do you get where I'm coming from?
What about if you set out what is happening at Manchester United over the next year? So if you say to him, listen, you can come to United and manage one of the biggest clubs in the world, right? But it's not going to be a situation where you're getting £250 million every year. It's going to be a rough for a couple of years. Yeah, because obviously we're not going to be winning the Champions League. We're not going to be winning the Premier League anytime soon. But if you stick with us while we get this clear out of the players done,
Agreed.
Then in a few years you could go down as the guy that sort of resurrected Manchester United, if you like. And for me, It seems like from the rumours that I've seen, the guy'd love to manage United based
So
off the rumours that I've
that
seen online. I
LB,
think that would be the way to go.
LB, that I agree with. So for me, as I've said, I'm not married to any player coming in or going. I'm also not married to what manager, even if we keep Ten Hag, which is against what I want, I'm going to have the same mentality toward this of patience and let these football brains cook. If we can turn around the Tuchel and say, look, you're not going to have control over transfers. You are going to be a coach only. This is going to be the brand of football we want to develop. We will be picking players. You can make suggestions, but we pick who comes in. This is how it's going to be. As long as, and the biggest problem at Man United is that we've done this thing where we promise A, we deliver it for a year, 6 months, 18 months to a manager, and then we change direction and pull the rug from under their feet. As long as Thomas Tuchel knows what the project is, the control he is and is not going to have, as long as he agrees to that, then it could work. So I do agree with that element. So if we know that that's the understanding between everybody and Thomas Tuchel comes in, then he could become successful. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. We have the money and we have the budgets to build, to potentially build a brilliant squad. We've spent as much as City. We've spent more than Arsenal in the last 5 to 6 years. But because we don't have football decision makers making decisions, and we let managers, even letting managers buy players is crazy. You look at all the stuff that come out about Klopp. All the players at the minute, we look at Liverpool and go flop, 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 flop. They're all Klopp signings. As soon as Edwards left and Klopp suddenly got control over that, things have gone backwards. So for me, I do agree with, look, I would prefer Thomas Tuchel over Thomas Frank on most areas. My only worry is, and I suppose it's a little bit of PTSD, is that Tuchel comes in and then wants full control a year in, starts kicking off, and it all falls apart again. We cannot afford for that to happen. We need that. The structure of the club is so key. But as I say, whatever they decide to do in the short term, I'm going to get behind it. I'm going to give it time. I'm going to give it patience as best I can. And one of the other reasons for doing that is I'm just sick and tired of being angry and embarrassed at my football club. When Jumanji kicked in on Sunday, because it did look like a scene from Jumanji when it started raining, I just looked at it and thought, it was such an embodiment of what's happened to us as a football club. I just want to feel differently towards them. I don't know if you get the feeling of that, Dan, because it's not too dissimilar a situation sort of 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I must say, though, we didn't have any water features in our stadium. I will say that. But no, listen, you just quoted a great film as well, by the way. Love Jumanji growing up. Fantastic film. Listen, the Thomas Frank situation for me is an interesting one because I think he's done very well at Brentford. I don't think he's done anything to me to look at that I think, wow, this guy's so ready to take on a massive club now. For me, I think that would be a very underwhelming appointment. I will say Thomas Tuchel, I don't quite understand why people are so against it. I don't understand what people are saying about what gets to finals and lose them. Yep, he gets to finals and he could win them. Let's be real. He got to the Champions League final. We didn't lose that one against one of the best sides you ever see. Right. So I think for me, there's an experienced head there. There's also someone who's been successful there. And I think with the names that you've got on the list, Gareth Southgate being one of them, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank, Thomas Tuchel is clearly the best option out of those.
He's so disrespected, Dan, Thomas Tuchel, man.
It is, isn't it?
I go on, and speaking to people about Thomas Tuchel. Listen, no one's sat here saying Tuchel's the best manager in the world. Yeah, he's not even top 3, top 4, but he's a good, solid manager. And I do not understand why there's so many people that just completely disrespect him. I don't get it.
I get that. I mean, look, I thought the other what didn't help him. I mean, recency bias plays a big part in football fans, and I think we're all guilty at times. Going out of the Champions League semi-final the way they did, I know he couldn't legislate for the original mistake, but the substitutions he made, he went quite negative. They had no way of really responding. That goes against you. But we've seen Pep do crazy things in finals before, like the first Champions League final against Tuchel that's been criticised, and he's arguably going to end his career as the greatest manager of all time. And if not the greatest, he's only going to be behind Sir Alex Ferguson, which is no mean feat. So I do think there's an element of disrespect in there. I really do. But I think everything is about structure. I believe that if Roman Abramovich had remained the Chelsea manager, he may not be there now because they went through managers quickly. But I don't believe the situation would have soured the way that it did. I don't believe it would have gone that way because there was obviously an agreement and an understanding. The new board came in. it all changed, and it was like oil and water working together. And I think that's key. You know, you've got the situation at Bayern Munich, which I haven't done enough reading into, but it was almost a case of the ball got rid of Nagelsmann. They've realized they've made a mistake, and that wasn't even so much a dig at Tuchel. It was, we've made a mistake. Suddenly Tuchel's sitting there like he's basically the rebound. He's basically the rebound, right? And some people have been the rebound. Some people have had rebound partners. It ain't their fault, if that makes sense, that they were the rebounds. But the fans at Bayern Munich have sort of petitioned for him to stay. So the fans, you know, and again, I can't talk for every Bayern Munich fan. I'm just going by what they've done online and the stuff they've pushed out there. I don't think he's as bad a manager as people make him out to be at times. But look, I'm going to get behind whatever they do. I've got a question for you boys about expectations. Do you remember when Southgate became England manager? Do you remember that World Cup 2018 when suddenly there was no expectations for probably the first time in a generation on England? Mm-hmm. And it was arguably the best we've ever performed. Could it not go that way for Man United, where if a Thomas Frank or a Southgate or a Potter comes in and there is a meltdown initially and there is every rival laughs, everybody writes Man United off, the expectations are then on the ground, is there then the possibility that that actually creates a much better breeding ground for Man United to grow, because suddenly everybody's gone, I give up, there's no way that can be successful? Could it not have the same impact?
Yeah, you could do better. You could do better than everyone expects. A bit like Spurs. Yeah, everyone expected Spurs this year to be like 8th, 7th, because everyone was like, "Oh, Kane's left." You know what I mean? It's going to be horrendous. They're going to be 7th, 8th, and you know they're going to finish what, 5th? Outside chance of finishing 4th. Hopefully not. So you know what we do as fans we usually overestimate teams massively and then underestimate teams massively. So people will look at United if they get Thomas Frank or whoever and go, "This is going to be horrendous," and it probably won't be as bad as people think, but the situation would probably still be that you're not going to get back in the top 4 straight away. You're still not going to be chatting because there's too many better teams. You look at Arsenal, look at City, look at even maybe Liverpool, look at Newcastle, look at Villa. You know, and you look at Spurs. All these teams are all ahead of Manchester United, and I'd argue probably, and the league table don't lie, that Chelsea are ahead. So it's not even just a case of like, you're 100% right in that like you could get this manager in and you could perform better than everyone expects. But ultimately, there's still 11 players on the pitch, and those 11 players are all at the moment below the teams that I've just mentioned. So listen, you are right. You know, it could be better, but I think it's capped just by the fact that there are so many teams above you that are just, in my opinion, clear.